And welcome back to another video with On Point Politics. Hit the like button and subscribe if you want more content just like this. Looking at JD Vance's approval rating, this article came out from the Washington Monthly saying that JD Vance is the most disliked new vice president in history. The public isn't taking to his obnoxious style, which bodes well for politics in the post-Trump era, which is very, very interesting that this article would be written. And I'm kind of going to go over this and debunk a lot of the misinformation in this article. Kamala Harris's likability, competence, political acumen were publicly questioned throughout her vice presidency. Viewed through the lens of poll numbers, that was understandable. According to Real Clear Politics, her average favorable seldom cracked 50%. So her disapproval rating. It was higher than her average unfavorable for only her first 5 months, save for a brief post-presidential debate spike last September. Maybe it's time for JD Vance to face some questions. Vance's favorable is worse than Harris's at the same 2-month mark and perhaps worse than any new vice president in the history of polling. So what they're doing here is they're saying, okay, well, he's down -3 points, right? And this is what they're doing. They're saying, okay, he's down -3 points, and he's at 41%, right? And what's interesting is if you look at Dick Cheney, who they say, oh, he was actually at 60% favorable in his first year or so. Yeah, he was at 60%. But he's sitting in the low 20s, high teens in favorables now if you were to poll it. Joe Biden is now sitting at a 39% favorable rating. It's a disastrous favorable rating, terrible rating. In the Great Recession, yeah, his favorables basically split in half by then. If we look here, Dan Quayle and Al Gore, I mean, yeah, they started out all right. They did okay. Quayle started underwater and really didn't improve whatsoever. And you see here, what they're saying in the article is not even factual, because if you were to go based off of pure numbers, you see Quayle is at 19% worse, Vance is at 42%. So just even off the bat, if anything, Dan Quayle is the one who's the least popular amongst out of everybody when you're actually comparing the first 2 months or so. And so that was really, really interesting to see this kind of, weird article where they tried to, pretty much make Vance look weak electorally. And they're putting out articles like this because they want Vance to look bad for a 2028 campaign. They want to hit him with the fake polling. They want to hit him with the smears. And if you guys know, this is On Point Politics, where we look at accurate polling data. And if we look at their source of RCP, right, they only mention the fact that it's just Real Clear Politics and everybody's supposed to take it verbatim. And we see here, yes, this is his favorable rating as of right now. It is 41.7 to 44.8. That is true. But when you actually look at the polling by poll and you look at who is polling certain numbers, you actually see that if you only get the accurate pollsters who have an A rating by the America First Insight website, when you look at pollsters who are actually graded correctly and have a very high, positive rating in terms of their grade and average miss, you actually see Vance is net positive by 3 points. And if anything, he's actually closer to 49% favorable rating. He is not at a 42% favorable as RCP's raw average claims. And this is something you see here, the On Point Aggregate approval. And On Point Aggregate is going to be a website that is launched that is similar to RCP and 538, but only accurate pollsters will be featured on this website, such as the pollster that we sponsor, SoCal Strategies, Richard Barris, the People's Pundit, Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Reports, Qantas, Emerson, very select few pollsters in our aggregates. And we're also going to be factoring certain things in as well to kind of create adjusted approval ratings. And we're going to be doing this in our polling. When we do aggregates for state matchups and for 2026, we'll have this ready to go. The website should be done in about a month or so is probably when it's going to be up and running. But clearly, if you just looked at pollsters that have a very good track record, you literally have Vance +3 instead of minus 3. I mean, his unfavorable is higher than 45 when you look at all the accurate pollsters, but his favorable is also way better. And when you look at Atlas Intel, who was the most accurate pollster of the 2024 election alongside Richard Barris, you see his favorable is at 51% right now. And so all these polls that have him at 39, 42, it's like, really? It's like, come on. And you see here, like if you look at Economist/YouGov, right? -4, right? You see that. And if you look, let's go to like a YouGov poll. Let's go here. Oh, wow, Harris +2? Really? Harris was going to win the popular vote by 2 points? Look at that. That was 3.5 points off from the popular vote in 2024. Let's look at Reuters/Ipsos. If we were to open up Reuters/Ipsos, we see they have a -10 favorable rating for Vance. -10 points. Let's look and see what the popular vote was from Reuters/Ipsos in the election here. I'm actually really curious to see what it actually looked like, because I know they did it. Here's Ipsos right here. Harris +4. Harris did not win the popular vote by 4 points. I mean, it's very obvious here. She did not win the popular vote by 4 percentage points. And so you look at all the pollsters. Like, look, we can even go back. Let's pick another one. Let's do, Marquette. Oh, okay. Well, let's go to Marquette. Let's see what Marquette polled for the election in 2024. Oh, wow. Harris +3? Really? Really? Harris +6 in August? Come on. Come on. All of the pollsters that have, all the pollsters that have Vance or Donald Trump in the negatives all had Harris basically tied or winning the popular vote by like multiple points. Literally. And so you guys cannot use the RCP aggregate at face value, because there are a lot of polls that do come in the aggregate that skew favorables. Even Donald Trump. If you look at Donald Trump's favorable, it is now -3.2 now. And actually, this is not his presidential approval rating. Actually, if you go to his favorable job approval, he's only down like -0.9, right? But what's interesting is you look, Quinnipiac -11. Really? -11. Let's go to the popular vote and see what Quinnipiac had as their final poll for 2024. I'm actually really curious to see what they ended up polling for the general election. Okay, they had a Trump +1. But Harris +2? And then Trump +4 when it was Biden. So they still basically herded towards the end. And they polled all the way at the end of, like, the midway of September. Like, way before the cycle even finished. Right? And so it's like, you look at, like, let's look at another one. Right? Let's go back to Vance. And we're just going to look at Vance. Let's look at, like, okay, the CNN one. Let's see what CNN got, right? A tie. CNN had a tie, okay? But when you look at older CNN polls, Harris +1. Let's do the search bar here so we can see exactly. Actually, I think that's it. Yeah, Harris +1. Harris +1. They had Trump at 47. He really got 49% of the popular vote. Like, come on. All the pollsters that have Vance down, like, by a lot, were not accurate in the election at all. They were not accurate. Pew Research is, like, a little bit better, but not even by a lot. Not even by a lot. And I don't even think they actually, yeah, look, Harris +1, and they have Vance down what? What is he down in this? In this one? He's down -3, and they had a Harris +1. Now, if you look at TPP, for example, let's look at what TPP's final poll was. Oh, Trump +1. You see, it's fairly accurate, right? That's about what he got. And you look at that poll, and he's up by 5. His net favorable is 5 points in that poll. So it's like now all of the liberal pollsters that had Harris winning by like a bunch of points are all of a sudden just having Vance magically down like 8, 9, 6, 5, 10 points respectively. All of these pollsters were over like 2.5 points off. in the popular vote in the last one. And their swing state margins, forget it. CNN had Kamala Harris winning Arizona. And they would have like Wisconsin +4 for Harris. Like, it was just a disaster. It was a disaster. Like, let's go to Wisconsin, right? Let's look at this. Like, New York Times / CNN, Harris +2. Okay, whatever. Rasmussen reports they had Trump +3. Okay, you know, kind of off by 2, but they have Vance up. CNN, Harris +6 in Wisconsin. Like, are we serious? Are we serious right now? Really? Harris +6 in Wisconsin? You got to be kidding me. Marquette, Harris +1. Like, it's like it never stops. Quinnipiac a tie. You know, Quinnipiac 2, Trump +2, Alice Intel, Harris +1, Alice Intel. Their last one was a tie, and then they had Trump +1 at the end. They polled again. But my point is, the pollsters that have Vance down were off in the general election, in the 2024 election cycle. All the pollsters that were spot on all have Vance up by like a couple points, or they have him tied, which I think he's roughly about tied or like slightly net positive right now. But I just want to show this because this is what the media tries to do. They start the term, they have a couple people say, oh, he's going to drop in favorable. And then Tom and Mark Mitchell predicted, Tom Ellsworth from the Patrick Bet-David podcast and Mark Mitchell, they predicted that there was going to be like a -10 favorable rating poll for Donald Trump to have the aggregate skew over the weekend for the news cycle. And it seems like that did actually end up happening shortly after they predicted it. And if you look at this map, Donald Trump won 312 electoral votes with Harris's 226. And you're telling me that Vance is the most disliked vice president in the United States history when Donald Trump just won a general election as his vice president? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And when you look at the electoral map for 2028, right? And I always like to tie these things back to like future elections. They're trying to say that Vance is like at a 41% favorable rating. If that was the case, like let's say, you know, because Harris is roughly at that in the Alice Intel favorables, like that's where she's at like 41, 40. And Vance is like at 51. When you look at like Atlas and Accurate pollsters and their favorables for like, you know, certain candidates, when you have a Vance +11 net advantage in favorable, Texas, Ohio, like Florida, Iowa, like all those states, they're gone. Georgia, North Carolina, those are like not even on the table for Harris in a rematch. Neither would the Rust Belt states be. I'd even say Minnesota and New Mexico would be fairly easy grabs, including Virginia, including New Jersey, including New Hampshire. And at that point, you'd have some states up for grabs if you take those Alice Intel favorables at face value, because Harris is sitting at like 40%. That's not really a great area to sit at in favorable rating against your possible 2020 opponent, especially that Harris is leading in the primary polling. It's like, come on now. And so if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. Make sure to go ahead and check out our pollster SoCal strategies. This is something really interesting, right? Because we need to raise money for SoCal for our poll in the state of Wisconsin. And so if you guys could just chip in a little bit, it would be greatly appreciated from the team as of right now. We are polling the Supreme Court race for April 1st with Shamil versus Crawford. It's a very important race. Make sure to go vote, but first donate to the GoFundMe so we actually have the funds to be able to poll this. It would be greatly, greatly appreciated. And I will see you guys in the next video.